Vegan leather. Yo, marketing is a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Vegan leather. See, that's that bullshit. That's how you know that they think that we're stupid.
We are
It's
stupid.
because marketing can just change up the words and take it from pleather, or as we will call it, like pleather, like synthetic leather,
Right.
and say vegan leather.
And it sounds fancy.
It sounds super fancy, and it's gonna make all the vegans and all the people that care about animals hard, and they want to buy it. It's crazy.
And you could probably sell the same shit for more because now it's vegan leather.
It's vegan leather.
Yeah.
And that was on the marketing for the headphones.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Vegan leather.
Leather.
It's pleather. I remember seeing that crap when I was buying a leather jacket last year from a nice company, right? Mm-hmm. Where leather jackets cost hundreds of dollars.
Right.
Vegan leather jackets.
Pleather
was damn near the same price. But because it's marketed as vegan leather.
Like you're doing something good.
Like you're doing something good for the environment. They got you. See, that's why they pay these marketers good money. It's because they come up with ways to just trick people into spending the money. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ooh, I forgot I had a good warm-up question on here. What do you think the average breast size is in the U.S.? Now, what made me want to ask this question is because I Googled it. Because I
Googled the answer?
Okay. I walked into...
Who asked this question?
Me. I'm asking it to you.
But you just thought of it?
Well, first of all, I Googled what size are tits supposed to be. Now, the reason why I asked that is because I walked into a woman's home and she looked like she had 2 children sitting on her lap underneath her shirt. Like they were just
like
that huge.
But she was big?
She was big. She was a big woman. She was a big woman. But her breasts were bigger than anything else on her body, including her stomach. And so I'm looking at it, I got, this can't be normal. Like, what size are they supposed to be? So, of course, Google doesn't want to answer that question.
Because there's no answer.
So the closest thing I could get is the average breast size in U.S. And what do you think that would be?
A B.
Really? Mm-hmm. I would have thought it was a C.
What is it?
Double D.
Average. Is it because everybody's so fat?
Maybe.
Because that doesn't sound right to me.
I didn't check this Google search, if that makes sense. But it did say in the U.S. the average for breast size is a 34 double D, and in Europe it's 36 double D. So they just have wider backed bitches. You know what I'm saying? than we have. But I was like, what? Because I'm thinking, okay, well, C is probably somewhere in the middle, between the A cups and
interesting.
Yeah, double D. But yes, I wonder if that's linked to obesity.
I guarantee it does.
So, yeah.
Because most women don't naturally have big titties. Not in my experience of women that I've known my entire life.
You could Google it right now.
Which part?
You Google it, because my algorithm might be telling me something different than your algorithm would tell you.
Because of all the porn you watch?
I will not confirm nor deny that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Average U.S. breast size.
See, because in 1983, it was a 34B.
It was a 34B in 83, and now it is a
34 double D.
Hey.
So
women are upgrading. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure it's not just the breasts that are getting bigger.
Now, good question. Do you think that they factor in women that get breast augmentation?
Probably.
Into that average?
This is skewed. It has to be. And I guarantee a lot of it has to do with weight.
That will almost be unfair. And who's out here measuring titties? Didn't we have the same conversation with the average dick size?
We did? I don't remember.
I want to say early episode, we were talking about dick sizes, and you're like, well, who's out here measuring dicks?
Yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar now that you say it.
Because you can't leave it up to a guy to just answer a survey and then
Right.
honestly answer
It's
the
got to
size
be
of his
maybe
dick.
based on bra purchases, would be my guess.
Yes. And you can't do it with men, though, because you can't do it.
Yeah, nothing.
We don't have a cup size.
Right. Yeah, but I find it interesting that in 83 it was 34B.
Mm-hmm.
So I bet that has something to do with boob jobs, weight for sure.
When did breast augmentations like start really kicking in?
Probably in the 90s.
Like really taking off? Not when they first started doing them.
No, I know. I get it. See, this is going back to like when it started. This can't be right. Something about like mid 2000s. That doesn't sound right to me. I would think the 90s.
To me, it would have been like Pam Anderson would have.
Yeah, 90s.
Like to me, she was the first person that I can.
I would
remember.
think the 90s.
Because hers are fake, right?
Right.
What? You gotta check now. You don't know.
What
But to me, that was like if I had to go back and think who was the first
the
person
90s.
that I can remember, it would have been. It'd been that. Yeah, who's that? All right. And we're back. And the show must go on. Let me intro this thing. What's up, everybody? This is the Feelings First Facts of the Podcast with Nathan Mitchell and Cristina.
Hey.
And this is episode 62. 62.
Is it?
I believe so. We're 60, 61, 62. If not, then whatever. Just be a little air.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of pre-talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
As usual.
Did.
So let's get into the main talk. So the main topic for today's session, or not today's session. I'm so like into work mode when I'm saying today's session. That's usually what I type 1,001 times in one note. Today's session. Well,
it could be a
as
session.
if I'll be speaking of any other session. But you have to make sure that everyone understands that you're talking about today's session.
Right.
Dated today. But today's podcast, the main topic, you already know what it is. Do you remember?
Mm-mm.
The main topic is going to be, do you think it is appropriate to ask your ex what you did wrong?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do.
And even more so, is that more inappropriate or more inappropriate or less inappropriate if you do it when you're already in a relationship?
Okay.
Right. But before we get into that, there's some
other stuff.
Yeah, there's some monkey shit I want to address.
Okay.
All right. So the first one, the first one, this had me laughing, so I figured I had to share this. This is kind of breaking news, right? So Southwest airline pilot threatens passengers over someone airdropping nudes as they were flying to Cabo. And so the pilot gets on the little speaker, and he's like, anyone that is doing it, if they continue to do it, I'm gonna turn this whole thing around. I'm gonna take you all back to the gate that you all came from if you all don't stop. And then obviously if they do that, then security is gonna have to get involved because it's gonna be a big thing.
Big deal.
If they have to turn the plane around for whatever reason. But it was over.
It stopped, I guess.
It did stop. But clearly it was some guy out there that thought it was funny just to airdrop nudes to people's phones who had accept airdrop from everyone turned on.
Dumb.
Do you know if iPhone has that automatically set on, or is that something you have to turn on?
Which part?
The part where you can accept an airdrop from anybody.
You must. I would think that's a setting that you have to turn on.
I hope it's not default.
I don't think so, because I've never. No, it has to be something that it's not a default setting. It can't be.
Okay.
It can't be.
Okay. Because I know
or unless like with certain upgrades it's happened.
Well, I know this tablet, I never turn AirDrop on, and I can AirDrop myself the notes from the podcast. Now, I don't know if it's because it's the same user, So maybe it automatically
You
trusts.
come up to AirDrop, but I always thought it had something to do with my contacts. Because like Sahara will come up, Aslan will come up if we're in the same space.
But see, you don't come up whenever I click AirDrop on my phone. And I was sitting next to you.
Oh, really?
And every time I sit next to you, the only thing that comes up is my tablet. But I never had to
But you
turn
come
that
up on mine.
on. I don't know. It's weird.
Interesting.
I don't know. I never looked into it. But I've also never had anyone randomly AirDrop me anything.
Nudes.
So there's that. That would actually be kind of hilarious.
Hilarious.
It would be.
Okay.
It would be. But I also have a sick sense of humor. So there's that.
Sick.
Now, I wouldn't do that to someone else. That's completely disrespectful. But if I was like, "Do-do-do-do-do," and I got a little random AirDrop and I open it up and it's a fucking dick, like that would kind of make me giggle a little bit. But I can see if you're an old woman and you get this like, what?
Yeah, it's not appropriate.
It's not appropriate. No.
Yeah.
But it just turn your shit off. How about that?
Yeah, because people are fucking immature and stupid.
Right. And so you're opening the world, not to justify what this person did.
No, but unfortunately.
But you're opening the world up to airdropping you dicks.
God knows what shit they were airdropping.
See, when I first read it, I thought, and maybe they did, but they didn't specify it. I thought that they were airdropping the pilot nudes, which would have been even more hilarious.
Yeah.
And then the pilot's like, "Hey,
that would
who did that?" And now they're agitated. But if the pilot had to say something because some old lady got agitated, it's still funny, but not that funny.
Right.
But it's only funny because it wasn't my grandmother. No, actually, if it was my mother, it'd be funny.
Your poor mom.
Yeah, I torture her enough with dicks.
You
Not my dick. But
wooden dick.
Yeah, I have a wooden dick. So I have a wooden dick that my brother purchased for me somewhere overseas. I can't remember what it was, but it was when he was doing a Mediterranean float when we were still in the service. I believe so. I believe we were still in. Anyway, he came home with this wooden dick ashtray.
Yeah.
Where it has.
I was going to say, it's important to say it's ashtray.
It's a nice sized dick. It's like what, 7 inches, 6.5, 7 inch little curved dick, like nice little girth to it. Mm-hmm. And then the balls are cut out so that you can ash your cigarettes out in it if you decided to use it that way. Well, anytime my mother comes over, she puts it down. I'm looking at that camera. She puts it down and she'll put it behind.
Because you have it sitting up by the TV because you don't smoke. So
I don't smoke.
Use it. It's just decoration.
So it's a decoration, right? So if you're watching television in my home and you look down, there's a nice sized dick just sitting there. So when she comes, the very first thing she does before she even unpacks anything, she immediately goes over and she puts the dick down and then she'll put it behind like a speaker or something. Yeah. So I know it's her. So I get a kick out of taking that dick that she doesn't want to see and I hide it in different places that she's forced to see. Like I'll put it in her purse or I'll put it
in her suitcase.
I'll put it in her suitcase.
You put like under her pillow.
I put it under her pillow. Yeah. Yeah. So then maybe she'll be forced to.
And she never said anything.
She doesn't say because she knows not to seem agitated about it because
then it's working. It's going to get worse.
Right. Then I'm just going to get more creative. But as she ignores me, then.
Well, then the dick disappeared too.
Well, right, because she ended up hiding it.
Yeah. She's like, we're going to stop this right now.
Yeah. But I got a couple of hiding spots off before she decided. But funny enough, I knew that's why she wasn't saying anything. It's because she didn't want to
she knows you
egg me on.
Yeah.
So I kept going, knowing that she thought that I was going to stop, and I'm not going to stop.
Right. So she just made the dick disappear.
She really disappeared. So that sounds crazy.
It does, but only because you said it again.
You said my mom made the dick disappear.
It only sounded crazy when you repeated it. It would have been fine. We could have moved on. Nobody would have thought twice.
That is a God-fearing woman that you're talking about there. God-fearing woman.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of women, I want to briefly talk about She-Hulk. Did you understand what I said? I want to talk about.
You're going to have to insert something onto that. No one's going to know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking. Everyone knows what I'm talking about because I said the she in front of it. And the only reason why I want to talk about this because I know this doesn't have any. Well, I guess we could kind of tie it back into relationships, and I will just wait and see. But the only reason why I want to talk about this is because I am a fan of the Marvel films. I'm a fan of the Marvel universe, and I have seen everything that has to do with Marvel. Whether I like it or not. And I'm trying to get through this new show, the She-Hulk show, right? I'm going to let you say. I'm going to say she and you say
Hulk.
There it is. I'm trying to get through this new show, but I'm having a hard time getting through it because it just seems like, and Disney has done this before in other series, but it just seems like that they're just trying to push this political narrative or this political agenda down everyone's throats. That in this particular show, it's having to do with men being, all men are misogynists. We live in this patriarchal society and women just can't be free and yada, yada, yada. So now you have this another female superhero, which in the comic books is a dope superhero. Obviously, she's the
Hulk.
Right. So she's the lady
Hulk.
Right. That could kick ass.
Right.
Now in this show, I'm only 2 episodes in. I think there's only 2. There might be a third one. I'm not sure what day that they drop. But in this particular show, she is kicking ass. She clearly is shown that she's strong, but they're still using this as an opportunity to I don't want to say mold minds because then I sound like a conspiracy theorist. And I hate that pejorative that like you just can't.
Yeah.
Like that's just always you're just being conspiracy. But it does seem like that they are trying to mold the minds of children because obviously these shows are for children. They're adults can enjoy it, and adults, especially in my generation, do enjoy watching them. Or our generation, they enjoy watching them because it's nostalgia, right? It's something that we grew up on, whether it be comics, cartoons, or whatever it may be. So there is room for adults to enjoy it, but at the end of the day, it is for the younger audience that's going to grow up and become fans and grow with the shows and things like that. But you can't enjoy this show. First of all, it's just not a good show. And besides the fact that it's pushing this unnecessary narrative, but the show, the writing is just a little flimsy. It seems really rushed, like how she got her powers and just everything that's going through. And I understand it's a show and there's budgets and things like that. And then the graphics don't look the best.
Yeah. Like, well, especially in comparison
to what we know Marvel can do.
Yeah.
If we didn't have, Endgame and we didn't have all the other Avengers
looks a little
films,
cheesy.
It does look like it's a little bit made for TV, but just a step up version. But again, I get it. It's because of budgeting and things like that. And so they're kind of working with what they can for this limited series. So besides the fact that it's kind of like a meh show, then you have to not only get through that, but then you have to get through just it seems like every other scene is just a reminder that men suck and men hold women back. And it's like, if I definitely think that there is a space to have that narrative pushed out to people so people understand what's going on in the world and people understand what not to do, right? But I don't think it needs to be done in this space. And I say that, and I have that opinion because Marvel films are clearly the ultimate escapism, right?
Yeah.
You tune into this universe in order to escape from the real universe, fantasy. The universe that we currently live in. It's fantasy, right?
Right.
So if we're going to believe and we're going to fall in love with a world where there are
She-Hawks.
Yes. Well, I was going to say Hawks, right? If there's a world where there are superheroes, right? Where there are people that, can shoot lasers out of their eyes or claws could come out of their hands or the idea of a multiverse where you can jump and this guy has a magical cape that can, help him. If we can believe that, well, obviously we don't believe that universe exists, but if we're going to be diving into this with the understanding that this is what we're taking in for the hour, half hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever time we're spending watching these programs, then why can't we live in a world, or why can't we enjoy a world without racism, without the misogyny, without all that other shit that they're trying to bring in from the actual world into this? You see what I'm saying?
Do you think somehow they're trying to make her relatable to women and girls and what the women struggle with today?
Okay, I think that's a possibility, but I know you're not a fan, so this is going to be hard for me to ask you this. But if you were watching something where you already have a female superhero that is a powerful being, right? That has
because they made her an attorney. It just kind of feels like she's like the ultimate, you know, powerful, high value woman
So
in like today's society in our country.
so as a woman, if you were watching a show like this,
Mm-hmm.
given all that, right? So she is an attorney. She's obviously smart. She's,
Yeah.
now she has superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's necessary to then tear men down in order to
I
bring her up?
don't, but I just wonder if they're just playing that angle to try to make her relatable
But relatable to who?
to
A
women
feminist?
today, I guess.
I mean,
Yeah.
it will almost have to be a feminist because your typical woman, and
Well, maybe women attorneys, this is, you know, a more prominent thing that they have to deal with. I don't fucking know. Like,
okay, so then that just goes back to, again, my belief is
I think they're tying her being a She-Hulk and
Mhm.
how, you know, it's still a man's world among heroes anyways. There's not that many women heroes,
Correct.
right? So I think they're doing the same thing and tying that into that she's in a man's world
hmm
as a regular woman as well. She's an
hmm
attorney and dealing with what that looks like.
And, and just be clear, if they want to add in just a little bit of stuff, I get it, but it's
It was
blatant,
a
like in your
lot.
face. Like there was this one scene where she's in a bar and clearly another attorney, a colleague of her, comes up to her and he's talking to her and then he goes, "Oh, there's a hot girl over there. I'm going to talk to it." Or she had this whole diatribe in the first episode about how hard it is and da 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 da. And it's like it's really just shoved down your throat.
Yeah, I could see how that could be annoying.
And then she tried to combat, obviously I know it's not the actress doing it, but they had this part in the story where she wasn't too receptive to the name She-Hulk because she felt like she was still living under the shadow of Hulk, right?
Which, yeah,
Which, okay, I get that, right?
but you
But
are though.
but
There's
well
a Hulk
well you
before
are,
you.
right?
Yeah.
You are. And I mean the name She-Hulk is kind of like I guess maybe when they first came out with the comic that was a really
Yeah.
cool name. Now it's kind of lame, almost like Wonder Woman's like that's kind of lame,
Right,
right?
right, right.
They could do better now. But what I found ironic was, okay, well, here's Marvel adding that narrative into a TV show,
Mm-hmm.
and they had the power to change the name, period. And I know that would, well, how can they change the name? Because that's in the comic. Well, they've done it before, right? We've seen them do it with Wanda or Scarlet Witch, right?
Okay.
And I know that that wasn't because of a push to change the name because they were trying to uplift women. They had to change their name because of rights, legal rights, because Fox owned everything X-Men, which means she
But the
owned
point
Scarlet
is it's
Witch.
doable.
But it's doable,
Yeah.
and people accepted it. Like
Yeah.
anytime people knew who Wanda was. All the fans knew who Wanda was. We knew she was a Scarlet Witch, and no one cared that she was being called Wanda. And then yes, it was awesome to hear her finally acknowledge herself as a Scarlet Witch. But I say all that to say, if Marvel actually believed the shit that they're writing,
Mm-hmm.
then they would have just changed the
Gone
name
all
from
in. Yeah.
She-Hulk to maybe even her first name or whatever it could be. And then if they wanted to, they could have thrown like an Easter egg in, like someone could be like, "Hey, that's the She-Hulk." And she's like, "No,"
Right.
just to kind of like make fans go,
Or how obvious is it? She's a green fucking monster.
walking around, right?
Clearly.
But just to kind of get off of, kind of to stay on within the same mind frame,
Mm-hmm.
but just kind of get off the path of tearing down She-Hulk. And then I know, whatever. Because you're saying like maybe this is tapping into
Not that
woman
I
and
agree
yada,
that
yada,
it
yada.
should be shoved down your throat so much, but I wonder if that's the angle they were going with.
Well, so
It's
they
lame.
so
but-
so they kind of did the same thing with the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. So that I know you
I
don't
really
watch any
care
of it,
about
but
this.
this kind of ties into it where they have a black superhero
Mhm.
who is replacing Captain America, which is the ultimate white boy, right? So he decided to pass his shield down at the end of the last major film,
Okay.
right? That in that saga. And so now here we see a TV show where you see this younger black guy is carrying the shield and the
Okay.
torch has been passed down to him. But in this show, one of the narratives, the political narrative that they were pushing was this whole racism agenda. And at some point, he was stopped and harassed by the cops and things like that. And that pissed me off because I'm like, yo, I don't need that shoved in my face, and I'm trying to escape what reality looks
I
like.
wonder how many people feel like you.
I don't know.
I wonder. I wonder if this bothers people the way that it bothers you.
I just don't need to see.
No, I get it, but I wonder if like people like it. I wonder if it's a thing that people appreciate.
Because
Be
again,
interested to know.
you have this guy that's flying around with some metal wings. He's throwing around a shield with metal that doesn't exist, and it comes back to him, and he's kicking ass, but yet he's still getting harassed by the police. It's like, do better than that. I don't need all this political nonsense.
Maybe some people would feel like if you don't do that, then you're kind of just like dismissing the black man's struggle today. I don't know.
I know. I know there are people out there, or they'll say like, "Oh, well, we're just trying to educate the children so the children will know what's right and what's wrong." So if we have this superhero that's saying that men act this way, then they know not to accept it, and yada yada yada. But leave that shit up to like the parents, or leave it up to something that's more, nonfiction, right? Yeah. Don't do it here. And then I also think, and this is where I'm going to get off. I'm going to get off this train after this, but and this is where I also believe that you don't have to do. If you're trying to do one thing, you don't have to tear something down in order to build something up. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to empower women, you don't have to tear down men to empower women.
Some people don't see it that way though. But yes, I agree.
But I feel like that doesn't need to happen. Now, on a different note, and this is something outside of the film, yes, if there are men out there that are, misogynistic and and are pushing the patriarchy down your throat and whatever, then yes, I do believe that those people should be brought out because they're bigots or, whatever you want to call them. But as far as just taking the opportunity to have a female superhero that could do super shit, and then you got to tear down other.
Yeah.
To me, is I don't think that's necessary, and I think that is the wrong way, and that's where I was getting at. I think that is the wrong way to teach the next generation, to teach our children how to do things. You don't have to pull something else down in order to lift yourself up.
Okay.
I don't know. Whew.
I just love how you say Hulk.
To tie that into relationships, just to make that case, because I said I was going to do it. I think that doing that by tearing men down in order to uplift women, that can definitely that can make relationship building harder for younger people.
Some people might be like, it's not tearing down, it's just pointing out what women go through.
I get it. I understand that, but you just have to watch the show. It's so blatant.
Yeah,
it's shoved down.
It's just too much.
And then two things can happen, right? And this is just me spitballing. Two things can happen. You can have the younger next generation, the younger women looking at men as the enemy, right? Because now they're seeing, hey, we can't do anything without, So now they're on a defense, right? Which they should be. Women should be, ready. Okay, hey, this might be presented to me this way, and I might have to make my presence known. I get that, right? I'm not mad at that at all. But to view someone as the enemy, that could be a bad thing. But then on top of that, on the flip side, then now the males out there would start viewing women as the enemy.
I get
and then it's just like this enemy flip, boom, 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 boom. So it's almost like you're trying to tear up the foundation of how males and females interact with one another by feeding this narrative. Or just like, in a superhero show, now you're teaching kids without giving added details on what's going on. You're teaching kids, oh, black man, even if you're a black superhero, the cops are still going to hate you. And it's like, and that right there can cause young black boys to potentially fear the police, not trust the police. And then it's just this vicious cycle where, well, if they hate, and as the cops, well, if they hate us and they fear us and they're going to, well, we hate them. And you see what I'm saying? And it's like this thing, and if you have these platforms to push a narrative and to help build young minds, I think there's a more responsible way to go about it.
I don't disagree.
To save the relationships. There it is. There it is. But speaking of children, I did see a little news article out there, and it was stating that children are now the average cost to raise a child from birth to graduating high school is now looking at $310,000 for I want to say
I thought it would have been more.
They put it as a middle income couple with 2 children. They're likely to spend $310,000. That's expensive.
Yeah.
So for
I'm not surprised.
all the males out there researching vasectomies, are they reversible?
Here's another. Yeah.
Just don't reverse it.
Yeah.
Just don't.
That's another reason.
Just don't reverse it. Just keep that bad. Well, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's before college.
Right.
According to this. Now, they were saying on an average, you're looking at about $18,271 a year. I wonder how they're building that. But because
clearly they're just like dividing it, but it's like it's probably more in the earlier years if you're paying for daycare or then again in the later years if you're doing like other, you know what I mean?
Well, and that's the big ticker right there. Those early daycare years, you're looking at what, about more than $1,000 a month in daycare.
Yeah.
And that's if you're not looking for a shit hole in the wall.
Yes.
Right. It's a mortgage. It's legit. I was talking to a buddy of mine.
$300 plus a week for a decent place.
Check this crap out. A buddy of mine was telling me about how he pays for daycare, and obviously you have to pay by the week. So it makes sense where if your kid is sick, you still have to pay for the full week, even though because you have to hold a spot. I understand that.
Right.
He was saying that the daycare took 2 days off for
they still make you pay.
And he had to, I was like, yo, they didn't prorate you or he's like, no, we had to pay full. I go, that's crazy. Because that had nothing to do with you. Yeah. That had to do with them. And not only does that set you back because you have to pay for that.
You got to find a plan B.
You have to find a plan B.
Yeah.
So either you're paying for a sitter, which is going to cost you more money for that week. Already that's something that's kind of unaffordable or sets a lot of people back. Right. Or you call off work, which then can make you lose money if you don't have sick days, or can get you in trouble if you don't have sick days or whatever it may be.
It's rough.
That's wild. But yeah, I could definitely see from birth until they're able to go in it. And that's assuming that you send them to public school, right? Because once you send them to public school, then it chops all that down, or VPK, then it kind of at least chops down that half day.
Right.
But up until that point, yeah, you're easily spending $15,000 just on daycare.
Yeah.
And that's before you love them and you buy them, toys and you know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
Shit.
Well, I can understand why some people are like, okay, one of us is just going to stay home, because then it's like, at least I'm with the kid and it minimizes them getting sick and all of these things. And is it really worth it at the end of the day? Especially if you have multiple, because typically it's not just one you're paying for daycare for.
Yeah.
It's at least 2.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Well, I would imagine if there is a push for more people, we're not just going to say a certain group, but if there is an agenda for more people to have more children in order to, keep our system going and our economy, and we're replacing people and yada, 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 you would think at some point there would have to be, the government will have to step in, or at least the states will have to step in and make it so it's at least reasonable or manageable to have children, because it's looking like it's getting out of hand where it's not. It's
ridiculous.
It's, because yes, you could say, well, people are just going to make more money. Yeah, but then daycare is going to cost more money, because
so
those teachers are going to make more money. It all balances out.
No, yeah.
There's no such thing.
You're not going to get ahead.
Right, right. And anyone out there that doesn't understand how numbers work, like they move. Everything moves with the increase in pay.
If you're making more money, trust and believe you're going to be spending more.
Exactly.
Everything goes up too.
Right. The only way it will work, and it would never work this way, is if, and this is primarily because we're in a capitalist society, and our society works off of capitalism. So
Yeah.
it just comes with the territory of the land of the free, home of the brave, right? But the only way that increase in money would be beneficial to all the people of America would be if companies had like caps on how much they could charge, almost like tobacco. I think
Yeah.
isn't there a cap, or there used to be a cap on?
I believe so.
Maybe that's long gone. I don't know. I'm not a smoker, so I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure at some point there was a cap on tobacco.
Okay.
But then also the fines will have to be worth it, because a lot of these companies,
they'll just eat it.
It's not worth it.
Right.
Like I know years ago when gas stations were getting hit for price gouging for hurricanes, because that's a big thing that happens down here, where anytime we get a warning for a hurricane, everything goes up in price, water, gas, and people are going crazy. And then gas stations end up bringing up the prices. The problem is that their penalty is only like $5,000 a day.
So it's worth it to them.
Right. But if they just made an extra $20,000 a day, then what's
care?
$5,000? Like, I'll pay that shit. It's not going to break me. I still came out on top. So, but we don't live in that kind of world where that would happen. At least I don't foresee anytime soon. So anyone out there that thinks, oh, well, people are just going to make more money. Well, yes and no. You make more money, you're going to spend more money. And that's just how it works. But I think I said this before, but your 16-year-old son makes what,
makes $13 an hour. I was a whole adult before I made $13 an hour.
But that sounds sweet. Oh, they make way more money. Yeah, but things cost him. So he's just as broke as you were.
Right.
He's not up. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he's up because he doesn't pay bills. But
correct.
Anybody who has who's making that wage and supporting themselves,
right?
That's not a lot of money.
But with
how expensive things are,
right? But with the cost of goods and services being up, like you're saying, with the cost of goods and services being up, for instance, what he wants to buy costs way more than. So it all just averages out to being the same thing as far as that goes. So yeah, fellas, get those vasectomies. Save yourself the money. Make the government help people out.
Take care.
Because I would imagine that at some point that they would step in and.
What do they care? I mean, they do for people who are poor. We need people. That's the fucked up part. It's like, you can get assistance with daycare, but you have to be making pennies. So it's fucked up. There is help, but not for the average person.
Right. Not for what they're saying. This middle-aged couple with 2 children. Because the middle class just gets stomped on. The rich, they're always going to be good. The poor, they're always going to be taken care of. But the middle class just gets worked. And that this isn't a political podcast at all. But I just wanted to throw that out there, only because we were talking about vasectomies. And now it all makes sense. All makes sense. But I would imagine if there is an agenda for more people to be created and be U.S. citizens, because there's business. There's business in people, right? I mean, we need people to fuel the economy. We need people to spend. We need people to have children. Our economy, the way it's built now, can fail if there aren't people to spend and, pay for things. That's just how it works. It's like the whole stimulus thing. The stimulus is to help out them, not you.
Right.
Because they know you're going to spend it. Put it back to the economy. Keep it moving. Spankings for children. Now, I brought this up to you the other day, and you opened up my mind or you blew my mind, letting me know that that's already acceptable here in Florida. What do they call it? Corporal punishment. That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't think they do it because people aren't okay with it, but it could be.
So this was brought to my attention because it was a school district in Missouri. It's called the Cassville R4 school district, whatever the hell that means. But they are now allowing certified personnel to discipline students with a paddle when recommended by the principal as a last resort, as long as the parents sign up their children in.
I wonder how many people would be okay with that.
Would you be okay with it?
No.
Yeah, no.
No.
Only because I don't trust people nowadays. And
Nobody has any business laying their hands on my kids,
right.
period, first of all, even if it's justified. Like, because, I mean, people know their kids. People know if their kids deserve a good fucking paddling.
If there was a kid that was like me, like me, yeah, you had to fuck me up. Like I was a
Right.
kid that deserved
That's
spankings.
the
Like
parents.
there's
But I mean, at least how my parents grew up,
Mhm.
they would get hit in school. That was a
Mhm.
very normal thing, especially if you went to Catholic school,
Right.
which my parents did. And she said, none will fuck you up.
Well, I was hit in daycare. We went to like a family oriented daycare, and it was but it was still a pretty big size daycare. But everyone knew one another, so your teachers were like your second mother. And I remember they would hit us on our hands with a ruler, pop, 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 make you dance, or they'll wash our mouths out with ivory soap. Like if you use bad words. So I was constantly getting lit up because I was a bad kid. So I needed it. You couldn't talk
Why
to
were
me.
you a bad kid?
I don't know, but you couldn't talk to me. You couldn't just be like, this is what you're doing wrong. Like, whatever. I don't care. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
So I was like, all right, well, I'll do this. I already know what time it is. I'll take my little hand beating, whatever. Let's do this.
Why were you bad?
I was considered chatty. So I wasn't bad. Like
could
I
see
wasn't a
that.
bad kid where I would,
See you.
knock books out of people's hands, and I wasn't,
Okay.
you
You weren't a bully.
cussing people out. No, it wasn't like that. But I was just chatty. Like I was a class clown. I was always trying to
I could
talk.
see that.
But I think what it was is I was just bored. I was bored in
Right.
school.
I could see that.
And so I would get in trouble. And then at one point, my desk was outside the classroom. I spent a lot of time at my desk outside the classroom.
I could see that.
Yeah, they just, no, we know him. Just don't even let him in the classroom.
That sounds so terrible.
Yeah, I was one of those kids. But so I grew up getting spanked, and I'm not opposed to spanking. However, my mind state has changed a lot about spankings.
I agree.
Just as not I'm a father. Well, I mean, I've been a father for years, but
Since being a father.
since being a father, but since being the father that I am now,
Okay.
where I don't get to see my kids 24/7.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I want to be when they see me is that hand of discipline and judgment,
get it.
yada yada yada. Because I want the experience that they have with me to be pleasant. Now, that doesn't mean that I would allow them to walk all over me, and you know that.
No,
You know,
yeah.
I'm still, hey,
When needed, you're
when needed.
stern. Yeah.
but
But I don't think you're scary.
but I don't have children that need to get whooped.
Oh, that
Like,
extra.
I
yeah.
needed to get whooped because you couldn't speak to me. It was attempted. It just didn't matter to me. So I needed you to smack my ass to send that jolt to my brain and make me go, "Brr, okay, like this is what I need to do." But my children aren't like that. And so I know that speaking to my children, they listen and they understand. And even if you just give them like a stern look or a stern talking to, like they cripple. You couldn't talk to me and make me cripple. But them, you can break through something by just letting them, or display that you're not angry, but that you're disappointed in them. So I say all that to say my idea on spanking has changed only because I'm able to see that there are levels to what each kid needs. While before my initial knee jerk reaction would be like, fuck them up, but only because I was spanked. So
No, I get it.
but I wasn't abused, even though we were watching that one therapy show, and
Someone would
it
argue
is
that
it is abuse. It is abuse. But I just hate throwing abuse out there, because if I say I was abused, then it just I wasn't abused.
I get it. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. I guess by definition, yes, but that's if you want to play the semantics game. But there wasn't, at no point was I in fear. At no point did I not trust my parent.
Yeah.
And then whatever, we don't have to go into that. But yes, today we acknowledge that is a form of abuse, especially if it's done the most inappropriate way, which would be out of anger.
Which is how a lot of people spank.
Which, right. So, I don't know. So even though I know that this article was saying that spanking in these school districts, if they performed it, would be used as a last resort, which that's how it was with me. It was kind of like a last resort deal. I still don't feel comfortable today with a stranger doing it for two reasons. The obvious reason, I just don't trust people.
Mhm.
People are crazy, and I don't know what the hell.
And people are people, and people will people.
Right. And I don't know what that person's gone through.
And imagine them in a classroom with a bunch of kids all goddamn day long. You think they have patience? And understandably, you probably want to paddle everybody.
Right. And so now you might be taking, you
Sure,
might hit a
it's
little
not
harder. And
appropriate.
because how is that gauged? How hard you're hitting?
That's not appropriate.
I don't like that.
No, I agree.
I don't like that. And
It's
second,
way too gray. A lot could go wrong and fly under the radar, and I don't like any of that.
And secondly, and this is the more important reason, I'm supposed to be my child's protector, right? My child is supposed to not. They're supposed to come to me whenever they have fear, or I'm supposed to be their place of solitude, or or their place where they could come and trust and know that I'm not going to let the world do anything to you, as long as I can control it. And so if I just sign a piece of paper saying, hey,
go ahead and
spank them,
yeah,
then then I'm not that.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of trust issues that'll come up from that.
100%.
Right.
Like, oh my,
like where?
my father signed off on that? This is why this person's whooping my ass. And then again, what if it's done in a way where it's not appropriate?
Yeah. And who's going to argue that when you signed off on a piece of paper?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Because what the kid that just got spanked,
right, exactly.
You're gonna trust their word. It's too.
Yeah, I don't. It's too. I could go sideways.
I think that worked back in the day, because that's just how things were back in the day. And I would like to imagine that back in the day, I think people probably in those positions, they might have cared for children a little bit more than they do today.
I don't think the nuns gave a fuck.
No.
My mom said she used to get spanked and hit with a ruler in her hand because she's a lefty. And that was like evil or something. So like, nuns didn't give a fuck. There's no compassion. Like, kids can help that.
That's the title of this episode. Nuns don't give a fuck.
They don't. But I mean, I'm sure you have all the rage if you're a goddamn nun.
Yeah, no dick.
Forever.
Right.
Yikes.
No dick. And then you got to deal with somebody else's kids.
Yeah.
And then usually they're ugly. Yeah. Right? Watch there be some fly ass nuns. You know what I'm saying? Like we got it all fucked up. Like we think of nuns like on what was that, Matilda? Wasn't that movie? Or what was that one, Problem Child?
Oh yeah, Problem Child.
Then he had like a nun with a big old mole.
Yeah,
I think she was in Matilda too.
Maybe.
Anyway, when we think of nuns, we think of like fat with zits. You know what I'm saying? Not nice. But watch they be like
hot nuns.
Like that art teacher that got in trouble.
You can't let it go. Jesus Christ.
Only because
we've been talking about her all week.
Only because we were in the same. You know how I feel about her. Oh, but only because we're in the same thing.
I do. I do. You don't stop talking about
her. Objectively speaking, she doesn't look like what teachers looked like when I was growing up. Right. When I was growing up, teachers wore skirts down to their ankles. You know, they had coffee breath. They weren't. I wouldn't worry about none of the teachers. Not like that. Teachers nowadays, like that art teacher. What if nuns were built like that?
God. What else are we talking about? What's happening?
Do you think she should keep her job?
I don't have a problem with it.
No, I don't have a problem with it.
I know you don't have a problem with it, clearly.
No. It's not that I don't have a problem with it because of how her body is that I think that it's just haters out there. Just haters gonna hate.
Right.
And they're worried. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. You know, we live in a society now where everyone wants to point the finger at everyone else for why they don't look or conduct themselves a certain way. Right? So for all the women out there that don't have nice bodies or don't take care of themselves or whatever you want to call it.
It's easy to hate.
It's
Easier to hate.
It's easier to hate because then now you look at that person as you're wrong and you're doing something wrong, as opposed to like, damn, you know, I can tighten up a little bit.
Yeah, or maybe book a flight somewhere.
Or you book a flight to Colombia.
Yeah.
What?
I mean,
10, 15 grand.
Yeah,
you're solid.
You could look like the art teacher.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. But I was talking about that with the whole idea of or the mindset of the guys that are black pilling, the ones where they bash men and bash women and yada 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 because they're the ones that are not getting women, and so if you do, then there's something wrong and you're just not getting it and you're falling, and you know, it's like, get the fuck out of here. That's such a dangerous way of thinking because it's just, first of all, you're only tricking yourself and you're tricking people that are like-minded. You're not tricking anybody else.
Right.
So there's that. We're not going to talk about it, but I have been seeing more and more articles about semen retention, that this is a thing that these younger males are doing. And I only say that just because I was kind of like on the same train of thought. But you ready to get out of that? Ready to talk about the main topic?
Are you going to talk about where this came from?
Sure.
Sure.
We don't have to say her name.
Okay.
But it's a Instagram, YouTuber, podcast. I mean, she's just like an all around relationship influencer, and we enjoy her work.
Yeah.
She released a clip, and then she was talking about it more on a podcast. And I did not listen to the podcast,
Same,
so maybe if we listened to it, maybe there would have been a little bit more nuance to it, and it would have made more sense. But
just a question.
We are going to discuss the hot button. What do you want to call it? Like the clip?
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, obviously that's what she wants people to see and wants people to create discussion out of. But she was FaceTiming and having an interview with one of her exes. And during this interview, she was talking to her ex and she was asking what did I do wrong in a relationship?
According to that person,
according to that person, according to you, what did I do wrong in that relationship?
Why did it end?
Right. So we immediately go, damn, that's kind of inappropriate.
Right. Oh yeah.
Especially considering that this woman is in a solid relationship. At least
married.
It appears to be. She's married with another man, and
my whole thing was she was mad googly eye with her ex. They were googly eye each other, and I was like.
Now it did appear that way, but it could have been because they were looking at the screen. So
no, there was a lot of. I was like, oh, okay, this is not appropriate. But what do I know?
Yeah, what do you know?
Well, I do know.
What?
That it's inappropriate. That's what I do know.
So you kind of answer.
And it's not even it wasn't even a phone call. It was a whole FaceTime for all the googly eyes.
Correct. It was a FaceTime, but also for an interview, also to build content, also to put up for a podcast. So there's all these factors that are involved. I don't think that this woman is trying to go after her ex or anything like that.
Right.
But the question of the day, today's question would be, is that appropriate? Not
necessary and appropriate.
Is that necessary and appropriate?
Yeah.
And not to say, was that necessary or appropriate for her to do? We're just talking about just
for
in
anybody.
General. We completely get why she did it.
Yeah.
Completely get why she did it. So we're not talking about her. This is just,
And I guess also more importantly, is it necessary or appropriate when you've already moved on and you're now in a different relationship? Because if you're single, then okay, whatever. Like, call all your exes. Like, what do you care?
But okay, so let's address that first, because that one could be, obviously, whatever. But I don't even think that that's really necessary.
But it might be. It might be necessary, and then I think it's not inappropriate, because it's like you're not affecting anybody that you're with. So it's like maybe you did need to, maybe it ended badly, and then time has gone by, and you've started working on yourself and seeing things about yourself that you're like, damn, I really fucked that up. Not that you want it back, but it's like, I would like to have a conversation with this person and get their perspective on it now that I'm in a different headspace. Okay.
So I'm glad you said if I fucked it up. So backtrack for a second, but I do want to talk about that. So your relationship can end in one of three ways, and I know there's more ways, but I'm just going to put it in three different categories,
Okay.
right? It can either end amicably, right, where things are solid between the two of you, and
both of them agree,
and everything makes sense. Neutral, where no one's upset, but no one's happy, just kind of like whatever, just keep it moving, kind of thing, right? But then it can also end in a train wreck, right? And somewhere in those three, then there's different shades of it, this whole spectrum thing.
Okay.
But we're going to talk about those three, right?
Okay.
And how those three look. So if you're single currently and you want to reach back out to your ex, who hopefully is also single, right? Let's
keep it there. Yeah.
Just so we could rule out, is this inappropriate or not inappropriate? So
you're both still single.
You're both still single. So now it's appropriate to do this. Now we're arguing the idea, is it necessary, right? If you all ended where things were amicable and you all had a solid understanding of what's going on, no one dislikes one another, you all can possibly have a friendship with one another, if that is something that you all are both seeking. I almost think that it would be unnecessary to have that conversation, only because that conversation was probably already had. Yeah. So you both have a level of understanding of why the relationship went bad. So you can almost rule out that, right? Not
scenario,
being necessary, right? Then now you have the neutral party. The neutral party that, we kind of don't know what the hell's going on. We just kind of drifted apart, and then we just decided that this is something we were going to do, but then you all kind of just turned your backs to one another and kept it moving. But no one's upset at one another. Right?
Yeah.
But you're also
it wasn't like, right.
But you're also not happy.
Yeah.
Right. I think in a situation like that, then it could be necessary to figure out what went wrong in order for the two of you to come to an understanding of what you can do better moving forward in the future, maybe with that person or maybe with just someone else, whatever that might look like. But it would be a good idea to kind of get an understanding from something else outside of your perspective, your perception of the way things went.
Okay.
To get that feedback from the person that was actually dealing with you. Do I think that it's necessary? Maybe.
It would depend, I think.
I would say, sure, why not? If I had to go lean on the side of necessary, unnecessary, I'll go with necessary, because it is something that can benefit the two of you moving forward, right? Considering that you all are able to have a good conversation without things going stupid, right? So you're both non-biased people, or whatever it may be. Now, for this third option, this is where what you said is going to come into play. This third option, if your relationship ends in a train wreck, right? The two of you had problems, you couldn't see eye to eye, fighting, right? And then now you all wanted to end this.
Okay, go ahead.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I thought you were going to go with, because just because it ended in a train wreck still doesn't mean that you both ended it. It typically is one person ends it and the other one doesn't want to end it.
Sure, and I think that,
but I think that matters too.
Okay, and so I think that can still play into the scenario that I'm creating, right? Because it's possible that even if one person ended it over the other person, which is usually how it happens, right?
Right.
If you're not seeing eye to eye, no one's going to think that they did something wrong, more than likely. Okay. Because you both are going to think that the other person, you're going to think you're right and the other person was wrong, and and this person's fucked up. I guess it depends. Whatever it may be.
Yeah, possibly.
More than likely, right? And again, we're talking about a relationship that didn't end where these two people can have a conversation. We're talking
Got
about
it.
a relationship that ended in a train wreck because of most of the time you all just aren't on the same page with one another,
Mm-hmm.
right? The only time that I think that would be necessary to reach out to the other person and ask them what they did wrong is if you were the one that was the problem, and after time of reflecting on that you were the problem,
Mm-hmm.
and then now you want to talk to that other person about that in order to maybe seek forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
and maybe
It
have
just
some sort
seems
of
like that would be
understanding
the
on what's going
person
on.
that got broken up with.
But it can also be the person that did the breaking up. They could be the problem. They could have still been the one that was unreasonable, putting up a blockers, and they were,
Okay.
whatever. But either way it goes, I'm thinking if you were the person that could step back and be like, you know what, I really, I fucked this up, right? On either side, right? I think that maybe that person, it might be more appropriate and necessary to have this conversation as opposed to the person that clearly wasn't in the wrong. And this is if there was a right or wrong in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were seeking help and you were, identifying yourself and you were replaying things and you're like, you know what, at the end of the day, no, that motherfucker's crazy. Like it's them. If you were the one that wasn't wrong, or if you're the one that believes that you weren't wrong and you think
Mm-hmm.
the other person's wrong, opening up that door, I don't think is necessary. And I say that because then now you're just gonna
I don't think
create another
anybody
fight.
that thinks that the other person was wrong
Mm-hmm.
is going to have any desire to have a conversation with them about
Right.
it.
And that's where I'm
And to
going
me,
with it.
that typically would be the person that did the breaking up,
Mm-hmm.
is the other person clearly has problems that were not fixable,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't see why anybody would want to. The person who did the breaking up would want to reach out. They're already done with it.
Right.
To
So
me, it would seem like the person they're broken up with would be the one possibly wanting to have this conversation,
right.
assuming that there was some reflection and possible changing of who they are now.
Right. And
Whether to try to get that person back or at least gain some sort of knowledge about themselves to help them move on with another person.
right. And that's where I was going with it. Because then at that point, if you think that the other person's fucked up and now you're just trying to create this conversation, you're just asking for a fight
Yeah,
at
no.
that point. Because the chances that person's going to go, hey, you know what? I agree with you. I took time and I reflected. Like that's almost like what you're looking for. You're looking for
Yeah.
that validation from that other person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I would say that's not necessary. Why?
Right.
Because whether you were right or you were wrong, because again, if we're talking about relationships and why they typically end because of communication gaps and things like that, it is quite possible that your perception is that you were right and that the other person was wrong, but maybe you were both wrong,
Yeah.
or maybe you were actually wrong and your view on things just aren't. But either way, because I'm saying, regardless of who is actually right and who is wrong, because the
Uh-huh.
three sides of the story: his, hers, and the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of what the truth might look like, if your perception is that you were not the one that was in the wrong, you opening up that conversation is just seeking validation. I think it's like, why the fuck are you doing that?
No, that's stupid, and I'm sure that doesn't happen.
Well, I would imagine most people are not reaching out to their exes to figure out what they did,
No,
regardless of how it ended.
I agree.
Because again, if it ended amicably, then you're solid. Like
You
you and
already
that person
already
already
talked about it, I'm
right.
sure. Yeah.
Right.
Which is why it ended the way it ended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so now let's talk about what did we kind of
Yeah, I
get
think
to
so.
all that
Mm-hmm.
with two people
Being
that
single.
are not in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now so watch this. So for the situation where one person is in a relationship and the other person isn't, you're being inappropriate.
Inappropriate, for sure.
Especially
If anybody's in a relationship, it's inappropriate.
right.
Whoever it was breaking up with, however it ended, if anybody's in a relationship, it's inappropriate.
Now, do you think that there can be some sort of value in that? Do you think that that is necessary at any point? For instance, let's say you're in this new relationship now and you're finding yourself running into some of the same problems that you had before in your previous relationship.
Okay.
And
And
as an
it's a you
attempt,
problem,
it can
potentially.
appear that way, right? And as a final attempt to potentially resolve these issues without it ending like your previous relationship did, because it looks like it's going on that same track.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there will be value in
Go see a
someone
therapist.
possibly reaching out?
Go see a therapist.
So not at all.
Stop dragging messy shit into your life even more. Go see a therapist.
Okay.
Go see a professional.
I agree. I'm
Yeah.
not
No.
on board with the idea of you.
When you drag the past into your present relationship, nothing good's gonna come of it. It's not. It's unnecessary.
Now, are you worried about the idea of those two rekindling some sort of flame?
No,
or...
not necessarily. But then it's just like, do you tell your partner now that you're doing that? How are they gonna feel about it?
Right, because if you already have issues,
do you not tell them? So now you're keeping
withholding
secrets?
information.
So it's just like, it's messy. It's messy. It's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Go see a therapist.
Now, what if some people are listening to this and they're saying to themselves, "Oh, this couple that wouldn't be okay with their significant other talking to their ex. What if they just have confidence issues?" Or
we've addressed this. I don't remember which podcast it was, but we've already talked about.
So I want you to say it on this podcast for our first time listeners, potential first time listeners.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
It has nothing to do with lack of trust or security or anything like that.
It's unnecessary.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But that is kind of like that new. Not all people, obviously, but it is kind of like that new way of thinking where, if that, then this. Like, if you think that this is inappropriate, then that's possibly because you have trust issues and you don't, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But it's like, why?
Yeah. My thing is, relationships are hard enough without making them unnecessarily messy. And sometimes, well, I think most of the time, anytime you're dragging an ex into your current relationship, it's probably not a good thing. Most of the time.
Correct.
We're not talking about, yes, there's situations where you're cool with exes and all of that, yes. Or you have baby daddies and baby mamas and you're friends with them. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying people who have moved on, you have with nothing connecting
no ties. And maybe we should have specified that.
Yeah.
We're talking about people that there's nothing tying,
which is why you would be reaching back
no
out.
Assets, no friend group, friend circle.
Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing.
There's no reason for
You're not in a small town.
Right.
It's just we're talking about a situation where you can completely avoid your ex.
Right.
And then you're actively deciding to bring them into the fold. Would be. And it has nothing to do with feeling insecure or not trusting and yada, 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 yada. It's just, for what?
For what?
Because these are things that you should have done before deciding to go into a new relationship.
Correct.
And anyone that says, "Oh, well, this relationship sprung up on me and came," like, no, they don't. No, they don't. You were in seek of something at some point. And if
it sprung up, you allowed it to happen.
Right.
Right.
And if you didn't do the work beforehand, then that's on you, because you should have done the work beforehand.
And that has nothing to do with your ex. That's a you thing.
Correct. Whether you were right in the previous relationship,
all of
they
it.
were wrong, yada, yada, yada. And again, if you ask me, and just to sum it all up, if you ask me, I think that a lot of that has to do with this whole validation seeking that people do. And if you are the person that's reaching out and you're asking this, yes, you could be wanting to do the work and help better yourself for the next person that you decide to bring into your life. But I don't think it's necessary to do that with the ear or the understanding or the agreement or validation from your ex.
And then I think that's also very entitled, because what if that other person doesn't want to hear from you? What if it took them a lot to get over you?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's inconsiderate to think that you're entitled to that. And you don't know if you have not communicated with this person, you don't know what they have going on.
Mm-hmm.
What if you're about to fuck their day up, set them back?
Mm-hmm.
What if they've been going to therapy and now you're over here? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
leave people alone.
They see your text message and now their
Yeah.
blood pressure's going through the roof and
Right.
their anxieties, yada yada yada.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like people are bored.
Well, some
Yeah.
people, again, I think some people nowadays would say that this is a part of moving on and this is a part of
Yeah.
being more self-aware and yada yada yada.
Yeah, I think that's a you thing.
I think it's all validation seeking at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think that is no different than what we're seeing in the world now, where we need
Mhm.
likes and clicks and we need people to agree and we need,
Yeah.
these other things. Again, yes, like you said, you're pulling someone into something that might be in a different headspace.
Yeah, no consideration for that person.
But then it's also possible that you might run into a situation where you bring someone into something and they're like, hey, you know what? Thanks for reaching out to me because I really wanted that
But
closure.
you don't
I needed that
know.
closure, but you don't know.
And
how
I
would
think
you know?
that's unfair to
And
put somebody in that space.
Right. Because the only way you would find out would be one of you would have had to been the one to
Mm-hmm.
do something as inappropriate as reaching out and speaking to that person. Even though I know that we're kind of contradicting ourselves because we're saying that if you were both single, then we're ruling out the idea of it being inappropriate. But just to clear things up, we weren't saying that it makes it appropriate to do that, because we were basically saying that it ruled out the idea of it being inappropriate because there wasn't another person,
Correct.
like someone that
Right.
you were with, that was involved. But we
Correct.
still believe that it would be inappropriate
Right.
to reach out to someone, even if the two of you were single, because of not knowing what that other person be going through,
Yeah.
or
Right.
whatever. It can be a bit inconsiderate, even though I get why someone would want to do it in order to help better themselves. However, there are other ways, in my opinion, there are other ways to go about doing that.
Right. Probably a lot healthier ways.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And if you feel like you need to have the conversation with your ex about it, that's also, I think, a little bit telling.
Mm-hmm.
You probably need to reflect on that too, because you don't need that.
No. Especially if you are of the belief at any point, but even if it was you were of the belief that the last time you all communicated with one another, that other person is or was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and they're the reason why the relationship didn't last.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, what are you asking for now? You think this person's now going to agree with you, or they're going to see it your
Yeah.
way? No, I think most of the time would put people deeper into their perception of things, and because now they've had time to rehearse it, and you know how memory works. Memory's fucking shit.
Mm-hmm.
Your memory is, I think it was somehow it's quoted, and I'm probably going to misquote it, but your memory is nothing more than your last memory of what you're thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see.
So it's not like if I think about something that happened in my previous relationship, I'm not thinking of it. I'm not remembering it that day. I'm remembering it from my last memory, which could be off. And then it just keeps on.
Yeah.
It's like telephone with yourself.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right. Right.
So you both can have it all fucked up, if the other person really cares. Because I think in this particular situation, this guy forgot that they were even engaged, right?
Yeah, he was like, were we?
We were
That was a little
engaged.
embarrassing.
Yeah, that is. That's why. How do you forget that? That's a pretty big deal.
Well, clearly it wasn't.
I can see if you forgot where the engagement took place, or
I wonder if it's she proposed to him, which seems about right.
Yeah. Then that would. I could see where he's like, did that really happen? Like, because you probably think of that as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh no, she's just trying to get me to
right.
Like, this really didn't happen. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I have no clue how long this podcast actually is, because I just kept recording from our interruption.
I see.
And so
okay. I think it's probably been an hour at least.
I would imagine.
Yep.
I'll find out after I cut things out. but I would imagine if not an hour, then it's close to it.
Hmm.
But by the time this is coming out, everyone that's listening knows how long this episode was, and they're like, well, guess what? We don't know yet. But
yeah.
Ready to get out of here?
Sure.
All right, let's wrap it up. Make sure I didn't miss anything. We're good. I did miss one thing.
You did?
Yeah, we can talk about it in the next episode.
Okay.
Fuck it. We'll get out of here. Because it's just going to mess the flow up anyway.
Okay.
At this point. All right. If you made it this far, we really do appreciate you listening. I'm going to have to do a lot of editing from clipping certain.
Yeah.
But this has been another episode of the Feelings First Facts Later podcast, the podcast where we are saying shit, but we ain't saying shit. We ain't saying shit. You don't like that, do you?
I don't.
I love it. Because we really ain't saying shit. We saying shit, but we ain't really saying shit. Okay. As always, I go by the name Nathan Mitchell, and I did this with none other than the lovely Cristina.
Bye.
Peace.